There was no let-up. The shower continued, and eventually Ivy decided that she must brave the wet and head for St Mary's. She and husband Harry lived in one of the cottages opposite the almshouses, where they'd had their home since marriage. Harry suffered quite unnecessarily with a bunion on his right foot. Poor long-suffering Ivy. She had to fetch, carry, hold down several cleaning jobs and cook for her Harry because he considered his bunion disabling. She peered out of her porch once again, then felt she must make a dash for it, heading for the side gate of the churchyard next to the Emblings farm entrance. As she entered the porch, she met Clifford Apsley coming out.
Oh, morning, Vicar.
Good morning, Mrs. Crooke. A rather wet one at that. Ivy took off her mac, which she'd held over her head during her run from home, and shook it. She laid it over one of the 2 wooden benches which lined each side of the porch below the parish notices.
I hope you've been saying your prayers, Mr. Apsley, for that young girl who had that baby.
I've said many prayers for her, Mrs. Crooke. She must be feeling terribly confused.
I was saying to my Harry, that father of hers wants locking up.
Clifford didn't answer, but gave an agreeing nod.
Men like he wants doctrine.
Clifford looked a little amused. In a manner of speaking. He glanced at his wristwatch. I've got some correspondence to deal with, and I think the storm's blown over a bit, so I think I'll hurry across to the vicarage. Ivy put up her hand in a gesture of goodbye, and opened one of the 2 large heavy wooden doors into the church itself. At the back of the church was a corner set aside with small tables and chairs, which was the children's play area. Pictures and drawings hung around the walls, and the area was carpeted. Above the tower door was a Jacobean screen, which was medieval. As she went into the tower, Ivy stopped. A noise distracted her. Droplets of water could be heard hitting the stone floor.
Here, I don't like the sound of that.
She nosed around the tower. Above her was the ringing chamber where the 6 bell ropes were hooked safely up until required. A narrow winding staircase was entered by a small pointed door, which took you up to the chamber and the 6 giants which hung above that. No water was to be seen, and yet she could hear it dripping quite loudly. Ivy opened the small wooden cupboard in the corner and removed the duster, mops and brushes needed for her to do her job. She closed the door and turned around, then noticed a pool of water on the floor next to the tower's west door. Above the pool was a narrow arched window with criss-cross metal lattice work.
I'd better let the vicar know about this. It looks serious.
Leaving the church, Ivy put on her mac and headed for the vicarage. Edwin Clark was not a pretty sight at the best of times, but first thing in the morning he was positively unbearable. His hair was all over his head for want of a good combing, he didn't wear a dressing gown, and his striped pyjamas looked as though they'd seen better days. Not really sure whether he was awake as yet or not, he entered the private kitchen of the Boar's Head, sat down, reached for the milk and teapot and poured the 2 simultaneously. By the end he'd put in more milk than tea. Having seen what he'd done, John screwed up his nose. You don't get any better, do ya? Please, Johnny boy, don't speak to me just yet. It's a bit like being out in a thunderstorm when you do. Well, it serves you right, the state you get into every night in the bar, and it's got to stop. Verbal aggro. The kitchen door opened at that moment, and Ross popped his head round. John, the dray lorry's just arrived. Do you want me to deal with it? If you wouldn't mind. I need a few minutes with me dear uncle here. Ross took the hint, winked and closed the door behind him. Edwin slurped his tea once again. Oh, rather him than me. You won't find me going back down that cellar of yours again. I'm darn sure you got a ghost or something down there. Since when have you been down in our cellar? Oh, well, I just poked my head down there, didn't I? That's all. You stay away from there, do you hear me? Besides, you're right, there is supposed to be the ghost of a Roundhead down there. Edwin held his head in his hands. Look, you still ain't told me what you're really doing here. And you can't stay here, you know, we ain't got the room for a start. What you talking about? You got plenty rooms. Used to be an inn, didn't it, after all? John glared at his uncle, and Edwin realised that now was the time he had to come clean. All right, if you must know. I've been kicked out, ain't I? What, are you all flat in Chiswick? Well, I never had one nowhere else, did I? Yeah. Landlord booted me.
Why?
Oh, 'cause I'm behind with the rent, ain't I?
By how much?
Oh, I dunno, nearly £1,000 or so, I suppose.
1,000 quid? Oh, John nearly choked on his toast and marmalade. How the devil do you manage that?
Well, it ain't difficult, you know. I've been dodging him, ain't I? So I was desperate. This was the only place I could think to come. Johnny, promise me you won't chuck us out. Not yet, at least. Please.
Clifford Apsley was dreading what he was going to find. He was half expecting the whole church to be flooded by the way Ivy excitedly informed him of the leak in the tower. He stood and looked at it. Oh, it looks as though it's coming in around the edge of that small window up there. The rain tends to blow in towards the west end of the tower, so it's obviously been forced through a crack or something. At least it's now stopped and should easily be put right. But thank you for alerting me, Mrs. Crooke.
Oh, that's all right, Vicar. Mind you, it makes you wonder where else it might be leaking, doesn't it?
Clifford nodded. Admittedly, we've got some leaky guttering outside, which I don't think's ever been replaced. I must call a PCC meeting, preferably this week sometime, to discuss the problem before it gets worse. Carol had just finished her lunch. She'd taken a day off from her secretarial job at Foxvale District Council in order to catch up with a few domestic chores. To her surprise, a key was heard to turn in the latch and the front door opened. Alec entered the house, looking positively off-colour.
Hello, Alec. You gave me a start for a moment, love. I wasn't expecting anyone home.
Oh, they've sent me home. I got a tummy bug or something. Carol went out to him in the hall.
I had a feeling you were coming down with something. You haven't been yourself for a day or two, have you? Look, give me your jacket and your tie and get off up those stairs to bed.
Alec slowly removed his padded zipper jacket, but Carol took off his tie. He then wearily began to climb the stairs, and Carol called after him.
By the way, I saw Miss Jessel this morning, and she reckons Noel and some of his pals have been mucking around in the grounds of ACREBURY House. We'll have to stop him from doing that.
Alec didn't reply. Instead, he hurried straight into the bathroom and was there for quite some time. Carol began to feel great concern. Collingbourne Tuck had just finished his lunch and took his plate through to the small scullery at the back. He placed the plate into the enamel bowl in the sink and turned the knob on the small wall-mounted immersion heater, and water fell onto the plate. There was a hefty rap at his front door. Somebody obviously begged his attention. He made his way through to the sitting room and opened up the front door, then wished he'd checked through the window first. A very disgruntled-looking Fred Partridge was stood outside.
Oh, hello, Fred. I wasn't expecting to see you.
Ha! You caused distress to my missus t'other night. Her thought I'd had a accident.
Oh, was her distress then to find you hadn't or summat? Oh, very funny. 'Twa'n't no joke being locked in your shed all night. Here, we got some talking to do, you old devil. Yes, we have, Fred Partridge. About they logs you be getting. You better come in here and do some explaining, han't you?